Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Realm, the definitive podcast of the realm of Old Zenithas, aka the World Anvil podcast, where I talk a bunch of crud and things and stuff about my world that I'm building. Sometimes it will be retrospectives and looking back at the stuff that I've made in the past, my vast library of stuff that I've already completed. Some of it we're looking at drafts, maybe. Some of it I will even be doing live building, perhaps. You'll have to know, you'll have to be here, you'll have to find out, and you'll have to look at all this crazy stuff. We'll be talking about builds, we'll be talking about gorgeous things, and how perhaps you yourself, as a world builder, a GM, or even a player, might get some heckin' inspiration. These podcasts may vary from a few minutes to a few hours. I don't know. Depends on how tired I am. That is pretty much one of the only aspects. Or, how much time I have in general. That's also a good point. I will have a bottled drink that I will be consuming throughout this podcast. Not the entirety of it, obviously. That's a bit crazy. I'll have a sip now, actually. There will be video content going on throughout the podcast. So whether you decide to tune into that or not is up to you. You could be building your own stuff while listening, or what have you. Whatever you like. It's intended to be listened to as an audio thing, but there's also visual aspects if you wish to, just pop across in whatever game you're playing, or whatever, just have a quick gander at what I'm doing, if you're interested. But otherwise, you can listen to my stupid voice serenading. So, right, we'll start off with a basic introduction to the world. Old Zenithas, created by me, you're welcome. The mysterious plane that serves an anchor between the... I'm going to enter my Filbert voice. We'll get into who Filbert is later. A mysterious plane that serves as an anchor between a plethora of alternate realities. The bonds between realms here are weaker than normal, and multi-dimensional abyss and even civilizations have been known to appear from rifts in the time-space continuum. As such, this realm is incredibly diverse and manipulated heavily by winds of magic and technology. Shut the fuck up, I don't sound like David Attenborough. An event known as the Great Cataclysm broke these universal boundaries, resulting in being periodic rifts in space-time, increasing the frequency and magnitude of dimensional spillage over the years has dramatically changed the socioeconomic and geographical elements of the world, mostly for the worse. Over time, the sapient races of humans, elves, dwarves, and others, man, generally, have adapted to the unfolding chaos. Technological and magical enhancement has soared exponentially, and welfare has grown incredibly advanced as a result. Not the typo. Gone are simpler times of foot soldiers and archers. Now is the time. Steam tanks, great war beasts, and even attacks in the sky. Kind of like Warhammer and Sigma, but not quite. However, there was one being a particular source of fear, the bringer of doom, the malevolent World Eater. Sounds a lot less menacing than it actually is. Being whose true name's not even known. It's actually kind of bullshit, but their deeds are feared by all. The puppet master of the Cataclysm was rumored to still be at large. So yeah, that's like the big introduction. We have a main timeline. We've got some gorgeous stuff. I haven't actually done much on the timeline, because I don't really know how it's gonna go. Because a lot of this stuff is homebrew for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, hence the art style. We're going for the 5th edition sheet style of things, hence the everything. Yeah. But what is this? Well, there's a series of homebrews for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Various different pop cultures, from Kingdom Hearts to Dragon Quest, all the way to goddamn Mario, because, hey, who doesn't like a bit of stomping on toads? Boy. you understand. But yeah, it is a multidimensional world where leakages occur in various different universes, including JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, etc., etc. So, and Magic Gathering quite predominantly of late. I've been doing a lot of stuff I've been taking a lot of cards in my Magic the Gathering collection, going for things that I go, okay, I can make a creature out of that, I can make a spell out of that, and literally making it like the mirror creature type, stuff like that. We will be going stuff into greater detail as these podcasts go on. Now we will look at the main timeline. So at 15, before D, or rather before Desolation, was the start of the Abyss War, which is arguably one campaign option for this world. It was a military action the year Hordes of Heartless from Kingdom Hearts began to attack the world. This was orchestrated by Dynasty, who was one of the main antagonists of the world. Basically, they're an interdimensional sort of god of darkness from, like, the origin of time itself. And they have come to this world. Well, they've been awakened in this world, in this timeline, by cultists, and kind of mess things up, leading to, which is the Great Cataclysm. Even in their wake of destruction, even as they were defeated by the great heroes, your PCs of the first game, or whatever, yeah, things still went horribly, horribly wrong, because they created their own demiplane, tried bringing creatures from other worlds, Heartless and such like, and it kind of broke the time-space continuum a bit, leading to the leakage. Because this is, in the meta magic of the world, I don't think I've written this yet, it is what is known as a hub world, which basically means that it is more greatly connected to other realities than a lot of other dimensions. So the Great Cataclysm, boundaries between worlds are shattered, but worlds are more bigger and terrifying. Before, this has led to things like other creatures, a phenomenon known as Paradox Dungeon, something I haven't written yet, and even the creation of other planes of existence within the world. Not necessarily related to any kind of fandom, but simply dimension, but simply things which have expanded the world. For example, there will be a plane of darkness, there will be a plane of light. These will kind of be, well, it's more like they're demi-planes or side areas in the planes of positive energy and negative energy. Simply relating to these other elements, because there is a lot more elements and damage types in this world than there are in vanilla 5th edition. For example, there is nature damage, which is kind of like vine whip, spells like that. It's kind of Pokemon-esque in a way, but yeah. The idea is, from a flavor standpoint, have various different magic types in a world where magic is crucial every day and very varied. And mechanically, it's a way of going, okay, it's a way of mixing things up. From a GM's perspective, it's okay, making players think more about the spells they use, because damage resistances and damage weaknesses are more prevalent, as well as different types of elements, their uses, their functionality. So it's very much a case of, it adds to people's thought process. From a player's perspective, okay, you have a great deal more options, but it means that instead of just going, okay, here's my spell list, then forgetting about it until you level up, as a wizard, you can go, okay, this, okay, I'm changing my spell list every single day. Druids, cleric, this also makes like druids and clerics a little bit better, because, of course, they inherently get their magic from their deity, from the wilds, or from warlocks and their gods, so they can change their spells up a bit. I think warlocks can change it. Okay, sorcerers, that's the one. It kind of gives them an edge over wizards that kind of is necessary in a way, because now you have this adaptability. Wizards in this case then have to think, okay, I need a range of magic, because they will have a greater access to the various different elements, where some of the classes will have access to only some of them, or more fleeting amounts of them. For example, a wizard might have a 3rd level spell for literally every damage type. There might be that availability, whereas a sorcerer may only be able to take some of them, because some of them, or a druid may only be able to take some nature spells. And there will be things that certain classes can do that other classes can't, etc., etc. But there is an emphasis in this world talking to sorcerers in a way that not necessarily nerfs sorcerers, but makes it more kind of balanced and more flavor friendly. So there are some spells, given the count of the Cataclysm, that can only be learned because they are foreign magic. They are otherworldly magic from other ley lines. I think so that even though you're a sorcerer and your bloodline gives you this thing, your bloodline is tied to this reality's ley lines of magic, not another universe's. Thus, you have to learn spells. Some of these spells really high levels don't even, not necessarily don't even exist yet, but that simply the semantic, the weaving hasn't even been discovered yet, or it's like lost in a temple and you have to literally learn how to use it, you have to figure it out. Or it's, known only to certain cloisters of hermits and wizards, or perhaps, even elitism, it's a commodity that you have to buy the knowledge, or whatever. Or perhaps it requires certain material that can't be encompassed by an arcane focus, and there's a cornerstone market on that. Various different things. So we're gonna focus on the meta of this. We have a whole section dedicated to bestiary. I need to add more creatures to this. Some of them aren't in the right section because it's actually really difficult to remember to section this stuff correctly. So we're gonna go down. Let's see what is important to. That's a spell, not the actual event. I've also been doing charm, the stat. So this is it's not actually meta magic. This is more of a stats thing. This is to do with how not necessarily character creation, but a tertiary stat. It's like an invisible stat. So charm is a secondary stat that signifies one's general appearance, style, not necessarily personality as much. That obviously comes into charisma, although personality does kind of help because it is based partly on charisma. So calculating charm for humanoid beings is base charm of 5 plus the charisma modifier. I put it to humanoid beings because in terms of to make it easier for character for races, other creatures may have different, but usually it will be 5 plus whatever. In the case of a creature that has charm, it will be denoted in their stat block on this. Very rarely will you find a creature where charm is important, but it may be important for them. Sometimes it will be a stat that they utilize, but charm only really has an effect, a gaming effect at higher levels, and at lower levels it's more societal, it's more role play, it's more we'll go into it. So yeah, 5 plus the charisma modifier, which of course can be a minus if they have negative charisma. Bards, for example, may have a base charm of 9. Yeah, those the bard class get charisma mod times level added if their level's a plus. If it's a minus, why would it be? It would only be a plus. So it would be, for example, if they had charisma of 9, it would only be a -1. But in the case that it's 12, their base charm is actually doubled to 10. Because bards, the main thing about bards would be their charm. That should be their main thing, is charm and being charming and being, their appearance. It's very important to them as opposed to any other class. The noble, clan crafter, entertainer, folk hero, Orzhov representative for Ravnica, and inheritor backgrounds give +2 charm, whereas criminal, pirate, hermit, urchin, outlander, haunted one, and gruul anarch backgrounds suffer -2 charm. Most because, and I will be adding this over time as more vanilla backgrounds are added and more homebrew backgrounds are added in as well. Rags will give you -2 charm. Common clothes will give you -1 charm. Noble attire and costume give you +2. Of course, later down the line, there'll be custom clothing, whatever. I don't think I'll add to the vanilla costume types in terms of actual homebrew stuff for them, because I think that's pretty much all-encompassing. But there will be specialist clothing, specialist costumes, specialist equipment, maybe, named stuff. Named, for example, you might have painter's overalls or something, which would come under common clothes, but it might have an additional effect. I don't know. But it won't come under, it's unlikely to have an additional charm rating, unless it's magical or specifically named costume. In terms of races, orcs, half-orcs, tieflings, githyanki, bugbears, goblins, grungs, hobgoblins, kobolds, yuan-ti, manhors, heartless, and warforged suffer -2 to their charm. There are homebrew races in this. Elves, half-elves, gnomes, halflings, Azamor, dragonborn, piplup, and eventually other cute-looking Pokemons, slimes, and tabaxi get +2 to their charm, because some of them are cute and some of them are elegant. Certain actions, hygiene, clothing, diseases, curses, and occasionally weaponry and armor may affect your charm stat. I don't know why I didn't put armor, but I'll put that later. But yeah, if you, so some of these will, in games, if you're running these, won't be necessarily applicable, like hygiene. You might not be focused on a player's hygiene throughout the game, unless, mitigating circumstances, they've just come out of the dungeon, they're covered in blood, for example. If they're just going about their daily lives, you might skip over that. It's completely fine. Doesn't have to worry about it. Half the time, it won't be a problem unless certain circumstances apply, like coming out of dungeon, going to visit the king, or whatever. Now on to from the calculation of charm, now to the effects. From -20 to -10, the player or NPC or whatever will receive complete revulsion from common NPCs and creatures. Most won't even talk to them. From -10 to +10, you get mild disgust from onlookers and creatures. 10 to 25, a neutral response, but still looked down upon by nobility. 25 to 40, people will sometimes look your way when you pass. Nobility may actually give you eye contact. There's a 1% chance to stun monsters at CR level equal to or below your level +1. At the start of the round, they're enthralled. This is actually a mechanic that comes originally from the Dragon Quest series, where you kind of get a stun out of it. But it would be really, really rare. But it can happen, and I thought it was kind of funny. And kind of, it's not necessarily going to be a broken mechanic, but it's something to think about in terms of, because it can encourage roleplay. It can encourage people to actually bother about the way they look, bother more about their background, bother more about their race. If charm is something they care about, this is important to them. At 40 to 55, some folk will approach you with interest, and some will even attempt to flirt. Nobles may sometimes invite you to functions, +1 withdrawal chance. So, like you said, there's very much a chance of greater roleplay involved with this. It comes down kind of like how noble background works. You can kind of get up in the world if you look nice, just like celebrities these days. And it does kind of, though it's, not necessarily hand in hand with noble background or whatever, but it's kind of like, it enables progression in terms of societal standpoint. There are multiple ways to skin a cat, and sometimes you need to use all of those methods at the same time. And it also differentiates certain character archetypes from others. A barbarian, for example, may not actually care about the way they look, but the bard might, the wizard might, or the warlock might, because they're obviously a charisma-based class for the most part, so they will naturally get more charm. Not as much as a bard, but they'll get a lot, considerably more charm. It's either that. I think sorcerers as well have charm or charisma as their spellcasting stat. But yeah, they might care about this more than other classes. And the way you can do this, you can either do this as cumulative, as in party, the party's general charm, or individual basis. Depends on how you want. I would probably, but you would have to do an average rather than cumulative. At 55 to 70, you will often be followed by a mob of fans. Nobility will frequently try to invite you to functions and may be flirtatious. Some less savory nobles may even try to kidnap you. So as you get to higher points, you get more reward, but there's also more risk, just like in real life. Really good-looking people, they get to places, but not all of them are nice places. People can be very, very strange. But yeah, as you can see, each time you get a +1 chance to enthrall, so you can even go as far as 5, 6, 70%. The last one, 76% plus. You will likely be stalked by an entourage wherever you travel, even to dangerous places, perhaps, and word of your location seems to be well known. Nobility will often greet you at the gates of any city you travel to. However, some types of dragon may attempt to capture you and keep you as a damsel/possession. You get a +2 enthrall chance at this level, and your charisma-based checks versus commoners now have advantage. But, you know, you kind of are now kind of a standpoint of it. Of dragons. You're at that point where you look so beautiful, you look so handsome, you look so great. The dragons turn and go, I want that. And this is kind of like regardless of level, because some dragons will see it as your strength as a challenge almost. So again, and this is how you can even link this into plot hooks, into getting your players interested in thing. Okay, the noble of the towns, knows the bard, not necessarily personally, but knows of them, invites them to a function, and then at this function, something happens. It's sort of example in Ravnica, and you've been invited by Tezia Karlov because of the bard's handsomeness. Tezia Karlov is trying to be flirtatious, not necessarily just to do that, but also to distract the fact that she's having one of her enforcers try and kill another member of the table, not a member of the party, but perhaps another invited guest. All of a sudden, you have this conspiracy afloat because of charm. That's kind of why I put it in here. But there's meta stuff that can be done with this. There's gameplay elements and roleplay elements. And I think whenever you're doing homebrew, a combination of mechanics and flavor are really important. And it honestly depends on the kind of game you want to go for. If you're very roleplay based, you should think of the flavor first and mechanics second, and vice versa with a more mechanical game. Although I would imagine, but you always have to strive for this balance. Form without function is just nice to look at, but doesn't do anything. And function without form is just ugly. It's just numbers. It's math. So let's keep it down here. Okay, here's another. It's not got meta magic. This is more of a class type. So another change to the world, but just necessarily relate to any universe in particular. Elemental Master Sorcerer comes down to the idea that I figured, given the world and the amount of different elements, I wanted to give sorcerers a separate subclass that specifically deals with elements. Wizards might also get something similar, but not identical. So the Elemental Master is a sorcerer whose innate power is linked to a specific part of the weave connected to one of the elemental planes. These spellcasters can utilize their element in incredible ways at the cost of casting only elements off their chosen element. So it's kind of like, I know there's other stuff for elements with other classes, I think there might be one for swords, but this limits them to a certain element. So, for example, we've got some examples here: fire, air, water, lightning, light, dark, etc. is listed as a damage type or main effect of a spell. You can only cast spells of that element, which does mean that if you're not in the light attribute, you can't heal. Unless you have a healing spell, which, for example, I will be coming up with a spell, for example, for fire, which is Cauterize, which heals, but has a burn effect, or something similar. It has another downside, but it means that, it has positive effects other than healing, but also negative effects. So it's kind of an alteration of a thing, so that, you have this elemental variation. Elements can do different things, but can do something similarly, for sake of mechanics, for sake of balance, but some things I can't do. And some of it's simply reflavoring of other spells for different damage types, different abilities. Perception, purpose. Elemental masters, I have to change that, usually work in positions so their elements are most effective, such as pyromancers working in large forges. Most commonly, however, they take up the adventuring lifestyle. How wouldn't you? So, at level 1, you gain additional cantrip if you chose an element. So, at the cost of being able to cast one element, you gain an additional cantrip slot. You become resistant to that element and any element that it resists, become weak to that element's weaknesses. For example, a fire mage would resist fire, ice, and nature damage, but would be weak to water and earth damage, and potentially others. Those are the main ones. So again, you're kind of making yourself a glass cannon, in a weird sense. But I really like this idea of situationalism, in
you're molding yourself to this certain situation. You're molding yourself to this scenario where you're most effective. You have flaws and then you have strengths, and these strengths are slightly more obvious and more utilizable than standard. Weaving magic. At 6th level, you get a +2 to hit with spells of your chosen element, and could choose one damage-dealing spell from any class that you can cast, regardless of an element you may cast. You, yeah, regardless of the element, you may cast that spell by using a spell point slot and 1 sorcery point. You do have to choose these spells amongst your spell list beforehand, changing that spell's damage type to your chosen element. You may change the chosen spell each time you level up. Oh, so yeah, I put that there. So you choose like 1 spell. You can you don't choose a level. That would be the minimum casting level. So you can cast it at any level, but you have to use a sorcery point every time you use it. But you get to essentially pick from any spell that has a damage type, changing that damage type to your chosen spell type. So, for example, a necrosis mage, a necromancer, could go, okay, my signature spell, my weave magic spell is Fireball, but instead it's Necroball. Which means that, yeah, additional effects will still apply, potentially, but it would be changed to something, in the case of that, we change to something more in line with what the spell's element is. For example, in Necrosis, it might literally make things in that area start rotting as opposed to start burning. Insult to injury. At 8th level, your elemental spells have a 25% chance, to inflict their standard status effect: burning for fire, frozen for ice, blinded for light and dark, etc. Burn is a status effect that is going to be a thing. I know frozen, I think, is already existing, but yeah, I'm going to add a bunch of different status effects. Bleeding, for example. Just to make combat more, because that's the thing with this world, is making combat more dynamic, more interesting. It's not just I hit the thing. It's okay, you hit the thing. Your specialist sword your serrated sword will only cause bleeding damage, but this is a slime. But in this case, because it is serrated, it cuts through it easier. Instead of dealing half damage, it deals the normal full damage because it's serrated. That kind of thing. There's very much this emphasis on being prepared for battles. Replicated casting. At 10th level, you may spend a sorcery point to cast a scroll-bound spell of your element once, without destroying. The second casting will always consume the scroll. Whenever you cast a cantrip of your element, you may spend a sorcery point to cast that spell twice simultaneously. I would flavor this in World. In order to prevent exploitation of this, is the spell scroll is then bound to them after the first use, so they can't just sell it and let someone else use it. No, they have to be the user of it the second time around, and it's fairly obvious to see. Maybe if they've got a spell scroll for a fire spell, they go and it starts to burn up a little bit, but you can still cast it. But stuff like that. Attuned to the plane. At 16th level, you may cast Plane Shift twice per week without consuming a spell slot, traveling to the plane connected to your element. The other casting must be to travel back to the prime-material plane while you are there. While you are there, however, you and targets that you have chosen for the spell are immune to the damage type of your element for 24 hours. So essentially you can spend an entire day in that particular plane of your element without any kind of issues, which means, for example, you could go to the plane of fire for an adventure as long as you're back within 24 hours. As a DM, you could say, you could honestly go with however you want with this. You could say, okay, but the spot you chose is random because you haven't discovered the plane yet. Or, okay, yeah, you can go to the City of Glass or whatever. Straight up. Well, depends on how mean, depends on how merciful you want to be. Alternative names of these groups, of course, are Mancers, Pyromancers, Necromancers, Cryomancers, the classic established trope. The type, of course, of job, profession is arcane. And this is considered under professions. Well, not necessarily professions, but it comes under jobs, essentially. But yeah. That's just one of the many different changes to the world without any kind of actual additions. We also have this. I'm going to pause for a second. Give me a second. I have a return edit. Alright. The next page we're looking at is A stat block, certainly, but this is actually one of the gods of the world, one of the original gods of the world. Eminicion, eminicion benefictionis, which is derivative of Latin. Latin in this world is used. It's not called Latin in this world, of course, but it's more of the generally accepted scientific language for naming conventions. Yeah, otherwise known as the apex of dawn. Eminicion. I can't pronounce it's Latin. Well, it's derivative of Latin. I think I edited it a bit. The name given to the creative deity of Ultinithus, a descendant of several generations of Lux gods, Lux being the Latin word for light, dating back as far as the dawn of time. They are also the strangest of the gods of Ultinithus, rarely seen and enacting their will in the strangest of ways. Ever since the cataclysm of her, paladins and clerics sworn to her have recounted that she has been changed, corrupted and mutated by the dimensional whims of change. It is widely believed this was part of the end goal of the mysterious villain that tried to conquer the world. Nevertheless, Eminicion has thus become unpredictable as the dimensional voids themselves, occasionally spewing an apocalyptic hellfire upon the world. Some skeptics would tell you that she never truly had any love for humanity, and blames them for the disasters brought upon the land. It was also simple once, an unseen hand of creation overseeing a peaceful plain. Now chaos has reshaped the heavens themselves. The domains are light, creation, and healing. The holy books and codes are the Biblio Eminicion, Biblio, of course, book in Latin. The divine symbols and sigils are a 5-pointed sun. Kind of cool, kind of hard. Native holidays are the festival of the sun, the week during which the longest day of the year falls on. We'll be looking at this in a second. Some of the stuff is actually important to this, stuff is not. Physical description, we have body features, tan skin, slender body, all the features one would associate with a perfect lady. You know, kind of the epitome of beauty or whatever. Whatever, honestly, you picture in your mind as the most beautiful woman, that is Eminicion. And that is probably, as religious gods go, probably open to interpretation. You probably, in fact, even if you come across as God, you'll probably see them as your epitome of beauty. That kind of thing. Kind of like how you see it, from Stephen King novels, as the thing you fear the most. This is kind of like the most beautiful. Special abilities, unparalleled healing, holy, and creation magic. She's God. She wears an elegant white toga, topped with phoenix-like feathers. Very Greek in design. Well, Roman, I guess Romans also had togas and stuff like that. Mental characteristics. Her birth signified the germination. Sorry, my spelling on some of this is terrible. Basically, recently, World Anvil has taken away one of the Microsoft Word features of their editing thing, which normally puts red squiggly lines under things. So as thus, there will be spelling mistakes. I do apologize. Generation of the universe of Ultinithus, a land of dawn and hope, because Zenith is, of course, literally the sun's zenith. She grew up shaping the plains and making them habitable. As humanity emerged from apes, she resolved to simply let them be, rather than destroy them for their ignorance and destructiveness. She gave her power to certain champions and created a few other gods to keep them in check. She ensured their evolution, impressed and fearful of their creative power. Her fascination soon turned to scorn as she witnessed the murders intended their weapons and inventions of warfare. But again she left them be, knowing they would simply be the architects of their own doom. Yet despite her omnipotence, she, and every other deity for that matter, was caught unawares as Dynastilon, the god of darkness, was summoned and nurtured into being. I factor this as kind of like a magical darkness that even clouds the minds of the gods themselves. Because how would you fight a god if they're omnipotent, even as a god? Suddenly the plains were rife with diabolical creatures, and humanity appeared to be on the brink of extinction. However, she critically underestimated the capabilities and ambitions of this reawoken ancient god, who stood nearly unopposed to usher in a new age of darkness. In his defeat, of course, the Great Cataclysm began, and since then, Eminition has been tied to her dimension, as she too has been altered by the force of dimensional collision. Now that all remains is a barely alive beast that has turned to destruction. The sun sets on a barely recognizable land. I kind of love the idea. This very much stems from the idea of how can a god fall from grace? Not even by their own wishes, but can they become corrupted? Can they become changed into some kind of monster? Some kind of literal unthinking beast, like a force of nature. In terms of intellectual characteristics, she is omnipotent and all-knowing to a degree. There are, of course, some things, some hiding abilities, magical, mostly magical, that will get over a god's omnipotence. Also, I factor in my universe, I don't know about you guys, as GMs, as players, as world builders, that omnipotence can only let you see into the future so far. Maybe, say, a couple of days, a couple of weeks or so. Kind of like how seers work. You know, seers don't see, like, until forever. They see a fragment, a bit of something important. But sometimes not always. Morality and philosophy before the Cataclysm, she was lawful neutral. Post-Cataclysm, she becomes chaotic neutral. Literally becoming almost an agent of chaos. Personality characteristics, I've kept this kind of simple. Virtues: profound, foresightful, intelligent, patient, and arrogant, egotistical, elitist. Flaws and vices. These kind of are only really related to pre-Cataclysm things, because post-Cataclysm she basically loses her entire mind, becoming essentially a beast. Social aptitude: awkward and emotionless, speaks with a very blunt and matter-of-fact tone. Again, there may be moments in games where she's lucid. Speech. Speaks without emotion like an artificial intelligence. We will get into this character later. He is quite a funny boy. But she has a relationship with Philbert Brindley, one of the most powerful wizards in the realm. Philbert Brindley, of course, is based on the wizard Philbert from the Yogscast series when they played Terraria. Philbert the Great. Philbert the Wizard! I just thought that character was very funny, and I decided to reinvent them, remake them, and make them as a character in D&D. Yeah, complete stats. They also have met with Corvus from Dragon Quest IX, the main villain of Dragon Quest IX. Spoilers, okay, it's an old game, guys, please don't hurt me. Corvus' whole thing is they were a fallen angel, kind of fallen from grace, because they got captured by some empire and no one went to help them, even their own fellow angels, so they kind of got pissed off at that. They felt betrayed by everybody. So thus they have a particular hatred of angels in their world, and since entering this dimension, they of course hate the god of that world, because God is very similar to the other universe's god, a very god of light. Of course, same Dennis Doolan. Yeah. Strangely, the relationship to this god is actually just fairly neutral, because they don't give a shit, basically. They're kind of very much... They're trying to goad them into being more corrupt. Yeah. But naturally, hatred ensued. Here we have some stats, some other statistics. So their health is fucking high, because they're a god. Their AC is only 22 over. For a god. They can be killed. They can, as their actual god form. I feel like in this dimension, in this realm, that gods are, in fact, mortal. And can be, at least, defeated in some form or another. It's difficult, though. Yeah, in terms of their stats, strength 30, dex 30, con 40, I know it goes above and beyond what is normal. Intelligence and wisdom are infinite, and charisma is 20. Their saves, of course, to strength are plus 10 to strength, plus 10 to dexterity. Constitution is plus 18. They auto-save on wisdom and intelligence, and the charisma is plus 5. Their divine classification is creation god. Their year of birth is essentially 100,000. In fact, yeah, like 12 odd million years ago. 12 and a half million years ago. They will currently exist in the host of heavens, which is like the various different heavens of the universe. There are more. Of course, as a god, they can be either gender or even others. Gender identity is generally perceived and appears as female. Their eyes are radiant gold, hair long, flowing green, orange, and red, like the sun. This is like their common depiction, so they can actually look different depending on perception. Their height is they're 160 feet tall because they're huge. Knows all main languages, bar primordial. They cannot understand elementals and other primordial beings. In this, primordials are creatures like Dynasty in the Heartless. They are ancient gods, or ancient beings. They can cast falling magic inherently at any level. Cure wounds, healing word, spare the dying, healing spirit, heal, massacre wounds, mass healing word, regeneration, resurrection, true resurrection, that has no time restriction on it whatsoever. So when it says, oh, within a minute, nah, this god can do that easily. Revivify, wish, create water, creation. Well, power origin comes from herself. It's not requiring material. Creation. In this case specifically, though the power origin comes from herself, it does not require materials and consists of any material. It can be alive, resembles a living creature, and has no duration limit for the spell creation. She can also cast Meteor Swarm, which is essentially her only actual damage attack. But this is the thing: this god does not attack in the traditional sense, but will use healing magic to overheal any opponents, to double their max HP, and kill them by overhealing in the same manner that being in the plane of positive energy would do, or by using Wish. Using the spell Meteor Swarm is a very rare occurrence. It's only ever really used for building damage or beings that physically can't be healed, for example. Beings like zombies and such, although, you could argue that healing magic will damage them. But in any case that a creature is immune to healing. It does nothing. From them, if you actually manage to defeat them, either in a manner that would kill them or that would incapacitate them, depending on your rendition of it, they will drop something known as a Soul of Creation, Wing of Wishes, essentially, that regenerates one wish per week. I will not be creating this as its own home for item. It is because it is it would be an article that would be a stub, essentially. It's not really that important. It is titled and it just cares specifically. It's a Ring of Wishes that regenerates one wish every single week. I can imagine, very, very powerful. 60,000 gold pieces, and an elixir of immortality. You can kind of imagine what that does. In this case, you could either flavor it as something very, very, very powerful healing spell, potion, or perhaps something that literally does what it says in the book. The elixir of immortality, I will possibly doing the stat block of at some point, because it is based on the magic card with the same name, which is a spell which is a instant or sorcery, I can't remember which one it is, which doubles your HP and shovels back in the deck. So it will have some flavor based on that in this rendition. But you can flavor it however you like, honestly. I think that is everything. Yes. We'll do one more looking thing. Engineering, perfect, the one right after it. So this is what we call a profession. It is inspired by things like, actual professions in real life, also stuff like World of Warcraft has these professions. It's kind of a tertiary thing that people can pick in addition to their class, background, etc. Or perhaps can be learned with time. I will be working on the grand profession statistics and laws, or rules a later date. Engineering is a skill to build and repair mechanical wonders, weapons, and other oddities. It is a favorite of gnomes and goblins in particular. It is a type engineering, demand, medium in most lands, staple profession in gnomish, dwarven, and goblin areas. Although, like I say, although it's favorite of dwarves do some engineering, but it's not really as much as these two, but possibly more than humans and elves. Probably more than elves, unless you're going with Kaladesh elves kind of thing. Legality is legal in most parts of the world, however, extreme mechanical science experiments usually require a permit. Like I say, this specific part kind of more alludes to if you're running stuff from the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, the Izzet in particular. Yeah, they don't usually ask for permits, which can be a plot. And so if your character's an engineer, you might get someone after you from, you might get arrested by the Azorius simply for being an engineer without a permit, and you're guiltless or whatever, which might draw your character to join the Issa League as kind of diplomatic immunity or just to make things more complicated for the Azores to arrest you. Qualifications, basic level engineering or higher. Career progression, one tends to start as a wrench jockey, someone who does minor repairs. They may become an inventor or mechanic, and even further to an artificer or restoration specialist. So you either go to, okay, I build things, or okay, I repair things. I will be, like I say, I will be going over these things in time, and coming up with the different levels, and how much XP it might require. That's going to be as I learn more as a DM, however, I'm not entirely sure of that. They're usually self-employed, and pay is equal to the quality/difficulty of their work or product. Wrench jockeys naturally get paid very little, but artificers can make a fortune for their wares, especially if they're designed for war, like military contracts. Main benefits are the recognition that comes from the attribution to technology, skill to build a plethora of time-saving machines, being able to repair your own mechanical equipment, and potential fame for making a beloved construct work. Something very famous. You could look at, say, stuff like Evangelion, for example, going along on, mech anime, where you see, marvelous mechanical wonders of combat, whatever, and there's very much a lot of style to it as well. There's a lot, you can instantly think of, say, Transformers. You can instantly, okay, I know Optimus Prime, I know what Optimus Prime looks like. Do you know the functions of what Optimus Prime does? You know their main abilities? Probably not, I don't. But you know what they look like. So that's where, the fame comes in as opposed to, form of function, sometimes function. Perception of it and general society. It's usually as an architectural infrastructure and makers of life-improving products. Social status is surprisingly very low for the most part. Engineers are often taken for granted unless of significant renown, but it's far more integral in no-mission golden society. I attribute this to kind of like real life. You have tech, you have in tech companies, you have the programmers and developers that kind of don't really get looked at, as opposed to more of the creative people, the script writers, video games. People don't really care about who made the software in terms of, not necessarily in company terms, in the individual terms. They don't care who made, the character creation functions. They do care about who made the story, perhaps. Operations, tools, wrenches, spanners, screwdrivers, nuts, bolts, lump hammers, vices, and more. Use your imagination. Materials mostly metal and wood, though some use more exotic materials such as mithril, crystal, radioactive material, and magic. Workplace can vary between engineers. Some have a simple workshop of stone, tools screwing everywhere. Imagine, engineers in real life, vehicle engineers, mechanics. Some people have, just literally a home garage, and others will have this massive garage, perfectly clean tools, snap-on tools in their nice red case, whatever, So others may, have a lavish bronze vault, complete with heavy with machinery and cosmetic appliances. It's kind of like that difference between, I don't know, the real-life mechanic and Tony Stark. It can be that varied. Provided services, repairs, upgrades, servicing mechanical items, and creating mechanical items. Dangers and hazards: death by cutting in half, radiation poisoning, crushing, laser, brake failure, lead, metal poisoning, fire, lava, transport, demonic flare, etc. Being an engineer is probably one of the most dangerous professions besides simply being an adventurer, because if something goes wrong, you're usually going to die or seriously be injured. But that is all we're going to focus on today. I will be looking at more stuff later on. We're going to be, in the next few podcasts, we'll probably be looking at the very important stuff, like the meta magic, and general major changes to the world rules, before looking at, and then we'll be looking at maybe afterwards, after those bits are done, more creatures, more equipment, stuff like that, from the mundane to the legendary, and then also stuff like Paradox Dungeons and how they work, and what those Paradox Dungeons are, also spells maybe. And there will also be live creation chat. I'll be talking about my thought process, I'll be talking about what I want to build, I'll be looking at my own inspirations, and I'll be describing that, I'll be explaining, hopefully for the sake of other world builders, so the other world builders might be also get inspired, but also that you can understand, it's a behind the scenes look at Alternatus. I hope you guys enjoyed this video here. This has been Kenny Jacksack. This has been the Realm podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to close the portal on your way out.